Welcome to the Leading Results Fitness Podcast, interviewing some of the best athletes in the world, discussing the training, diet and supplement principles of top coaches, educating you on all the things fitness and business. Sponsored by the UK's cheapest supplement supplier, My Gym Supps. Find all the top brands and lowest prices at www.mygymsupps.com. Also sponsored by the only female subscription site, Pro Female Fitness, where you can find some of the UK's best athletes discussing their diets and training with an interactive forum where you can ask any question and the athletes will get back to you. They have a library of over 300 videos to watch and learn. Now let's hand over to your host, Rob Whitfield, with this week's episode.
Hi guys, and thanks for joining us again today. Today I've got the privilege of being joined by Mr. Pro Universe Josh Maley. Josh, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, thank you. Nice to have a little chat.
Yeah, awesome. How you been getting on with the recent bits and bobs with the virus and stuff?
Oh, the recent bits and bobs, yeah. No, it's been an interesting situation, but I've just cracked on with. I'm training in my spare room, and I can't even kind of get. I've got enough weight, but I can't get too much because I live in a flat, and I'm a little bit worried about going through the floor. So kind of, you've got a bar, got some plates, got some bands, and using my imagination.
Yeah, perfect. So for those who don't know about you, Josh, just have a little bit of introduction in yourself. Obviously, I know you came from like an athletic background, but what tell us sort of what got you into lifting to start with, and sort of where your journey took you and where you're at now.
So I used to swim from like the age of 10 till 19. I got to quite a high level, got kind of national competitions, national finals. I did Olympic trials and Commonwealth trials, kind of attended them, and that was, awesome. But that was kind of my limit within swimming. I was always extremely skinny. I'm 6'6", so without any size, it's a vulnerable place to be. I felt really lanky. So I've always wanted to be bigger. And then when I finally stopped swimming, and I had, I was doing about 40 hours of training a week, so I had to transfer 40 hours back to do something. So I just started going to the gym with not a fucking clue in the world, just doing everything and anything, and learning a bit about nutrition, but basically just eating plenty. And then in 2010, one of my colleagues at the time, I was just working in a gym, said, have you ever thought about competing? I still felt like I looked like not like a bodybuilder, but at the same time, I was like, it was interesting me, and you kind of have to bite the bullet at some point. Classic bodybuilding was on the scene back when it was in the UKBFF, so there was like that height and weight thing, and I kind of fell quite nicely into that. I was just like, I think I was a year too old for the juniors at the time. I was 22, so that was my first show, 2010. Again, I looked tall and stringy, but at least there was a bit of conditioning, and that was my start point. And from there, it was just the bug of, right, that's what I have to beat. I took 2 years off. I beat it. I came back. I did like the intermediates at the UKBFF. Got to the finals, didn't place. 2 years off again, and in 2014, that's when like my NABBA kind of career started. I did the Midlands then, and I won that and the overall, and then went on and started kind of making progress at the British. And yeah, since 2014, that's kind of, I feel, where I start calling myself like a bodybuilder. I reached a level where I kind of held my own physically on stage, and I just built from there, really. Like my goal every year is not necessarily placings or shows. It's just to kind of get better, and alongside that, the results will come if it goes your way on the day.
Sure. I picked up on a couple of bits there, Josh. So obviously between the age of 10 and 19 you were swimming, but was bodybuilding ever on your radar, or was like weight training ever on your radar during that age?
No, like I always loved like the gym. I think I went to the gym probably when I was like 15, 16. I went to a school that had like a little weights room. And I remember going in there, being pissed weak, but really enjoying it. But I think I could factor in like one weight session a week when I was kind of before university. So from the age of like 15 to 18, because I was training that much in the pool. And then, I still had to kind of get an education. And that it was such demanding kind of training that I just didn't have a lot left in the tank. So as far as bodybuilding, I didn't have a clue until probably 20, 21 years old. Like I said, I attended Loughborough University, and when I graduated, I then worked in the gym there. And there was literally like Jordan was there at the time, actually. Jordan's a year below me at uni. So obviously kind of I was aware of him, and he was like a bodybuilder even then. And that's kind of when it started kind of coming onto my radar. I remember kind of going onto YouTube and kind of watching a few videos and being like, well, that's disgusting. Who wants to do that? And then just kind of get the bug.
Yeah. And then obviously you go on stage, you step on stage for the first time. Talk us through that first experience, Josh, and how it differs to sort of like now. Is it something that you sort of was just sort of going in and thinking, oh, I just want to do one show? Or did you think, oh, I'm actually going to maybe push on because I enjoy the challenge?
Yeah, I mean, like the whole idea of prep was the challenging thing. Like that was the bit I enjoyed, was the fact that, you know, I think swimming taught me that pain and suffering is cool, is good. Like I'm not afraid of it. So although it was a completely different type of pain and discomfort, it was a great mental challenge for me. Before I like stepped on stage through prep, I was like, I don't look like much right now, and I might get on there and I might not enjoy it. The idea of stepping on stage in tan with with just trunks on, even though I came from a swimming background where I've been in trunks all my life, literally, was just very strange. And I thought, oh, this could go either way. But I got a massive buzz out of it. I think it probably helped, like, because I did the classic, I didn't get like absolutely smashed through the floor. I think I came second or third in like the qualifier, and then I came fifth at the final. So it's quite like a positive start for me, even though I knew kind of, I never looked at classic guys and was like, that's what I want to be. Yeah. I looked at, you know, the big guys and being like, I want to try and see if I can do that. So once I got that initial buzz and knew that I enjoyed the end product as well as the process, it was just then a question of doing it again and getting better. But I knew I needed to take some time. Like 6'6", it's not, you know, 5 kilos on me doesn't look half as impressive as 5 kilos on, you know, 5'8".
Yeah, sure. And that swimming and discipline background, do you think it's helped you in your preps, not only for the first prep, but also your longevity in the sport as well?
Massively. Like, it gave me just such an incredible kind of starting point, both from a kind of like flexibility point of view. Like even now, like particularly shoulders, like I'm pretty flexible, and obviously that's then helped me just prolong. You know, I've not injured anything majorly. I've done a little bit of rotator cuff damage once, but also like the sheer volume of training that I could handle, particularly at the beginning. You know, I could just go in pretty much every day. You know, one of these no days off kind of guys. But back then I could actually handle it. Right now I'm like, no, I'm not hoping hell. I think as I got bigger, as I got stronger, like recovery became more important. But the ability to just, you know, I still think some of the hardest things I've ever done were in the swimming pool. So I can just use that and be like, whatever I feel right now, like I felt like absolute death. So
sure. So you mentioned obviously your early years of training. What did your first sort of training program look like? Were you somebody who, like you say, trained every day, or did you have any structure to that first program? Did you sort of just go in and say, right, I'm just going to train everything every day?
Yeah, I've actually probably got my logbook like down here so I started logbooking straight away, because in swimming you always like document your sessions and you know kind of what your meterage is each week and everything. But like, although I was logbook, I was literally just writing a diary like of what I did. There was no structure. I mean, I was, like I said, bodybuilding was new to me, so it was basically like, oh, will you train like one muscle this day and one muscle that day? So I'll kind of do it like that. But the sessions themselves would be every exercise you can think of, like just that would be it. Like chest would be like flat barbell, flat dumbbell, flat fly, incline barbell, incline dumbbell, incline, like no thought behind it. I was very fortunate to fall in with a power lifter. Again, this is the same colleague actually who recommended that I maybe try, you know, getting on stage. A guy called Rich Ellis, who I always looked up to. I remember when he worked at the uni gym, and when I was there, I was like, fucking hell, this guy is like an absolute tank, like 3 times as thick as me, 5 times as strong as me. And then when we started working in the gym together, I kind of plucked up the courage and was like, I'll kind of like jump in with a few sessions. And that was, again, like another pivotal moment, because it allowed me to start understanding what kind of real training was like. Because although Rich is a powerlifter, he's always had like a hybrid approach. So he's kind of always ticked kind of every box with regards to sort of other exercises and, assistance work and hypertrophy. So, but again, it gave me that structure of, kind of benching, squatting. He didn't like deadlifts, which is fine because I don't really like them either. But like heavy rows and, just getting all the basics done and locked in as a kind of core. And then everything else kind of went from there. So realistically, I probably only trained like an absolute idiot for like a year. And then I think he probably saw me and was like, I've got to say something to this kid, like, just an idiot.
But I think that's where we all sort of start. Like, we all have that passion and enthusiasm, but we don't know where to channel it. Like, we're just like, right, I'm going to do as much as I can for as long as I can. And when I'm fucked, I've had a good session.
Yeah.
Like,
and even now, like, it comes into play. Like, I prep myself, and like, I know like the tail end of a prep sometimes I'll be like, fucking just do more. Like, just do, when really if I was looking at a client and he was like, I think I should do more, I'd be like, don't be a twat. But I'm like, no, I'll do an extra like drop set, I'll do an extra set, I'll do this, I'll do that. But I think again, it's like probably a better way to be than someone who's like on the lazier side of things, maybe. So you take it.
Absolutely. So that first prep, Josh, and I'm going to go through the stages of your career. So that first prep, were you guided by Rich, or were you sort of guided by yourself, nutrition wise?
So there was another guy in the gym called Drossos, who was a incredible bodybuilder. I think his name was Dross Juano. I think he competed when I did. He did the first show that I did as a junior and won it, and he'd competed previously. And hands down, if he continued, he'd be a pro. Like, he had just insane muscle. Well, he's like 5'2", but like insane, like 212 class all over him. And he kind of knew what he was doing, a lot more so than me. So, Rich said, "Oh, listen, ask Ross, he's prepping, and let him kind of run things through with you." And I used him in 2010 and 2012. And again, just not necessarily like, we're certainly not over the top with maybe knowledge, but the fundamentals were there and the hard work. Again, it was like a fortunate thing of probably my earlier preps were like the hardest in terms of the amount of cardio I did and, the sheer limit on food, but it just instilled like a really solid base that I know that I can do that. Ideally, I won't push that hard if I can avoid it. If I can kind of prep smarter, but it just set me up in a really good place. And then from there, after 2012, I was happy with the progress I made, but I didn't quite know where I wanted to go with it. And then the challenge of kind of taking everything on board myself and like prepping myself was what kind of then motivated me to continue. And then that just kind of pulled me through, and from then till now, I've just been doing my own thing.
Sure. So when you do prep, Josh, and when you do, I know obviously you used to work in M10, there's a lot of bodybuilders there, and obviously Mark runs that gym. Are you somebody who would turn to people for advice, or would you just sort of say, right, this is what my structure is and this is how I'm going to run it?
Yeah, I don't often. Probably one of my areas to work on is like reaching out for help. I'm an only child. I'm selfish as hell. I'm a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
I'm enclosed, and I have a lot of respect. And I certainly ask people for advice, but during a prep, I normally just kind of lock myself down. And I know in the from about 2015, that's when I met like Max O'Connor and Rich, and they're two people who I always asked about like advice in terms of how am I looking for where I'm in prep. Like, they were kind of an extra set of eyes that I'd use, and they just say you need to work harder or you're on track, and that would be enough for me because I trusted that they weren't going to blow smoke. But no, I've always just kind of done it myself, and I suppose when I started prepping myself, I followed the kind of more extreme approach from Dross in terms of high cardio and kind of lowish calories, and then you're going to get in shape, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah.
And then every time I did it, it's just been like, how can I make this easier and more efficient, and still get there? And obviously, the kind of easier prep is, the more tissue you're going to hold on to, the fresh you're going to look. So that's how it's kind of evolved. Like I record everything every prep, and like I'll kind of look back and see, okay, this time last year I was doing that, and all those things change. Like for the most part, it was a good reference point to see kind of where I needed to go and what I needed to do.
Your thing. So what was your first stage weight versus your most recent stage weight in 2019?
So I started off weighing myself in kilos, and then I switched to pounds because pounds is way more impressive.
Yeah.
So I think when I started, my weight cap for classic, I think, was, because I am 6'6", it sounds quite a lot. It was 108 kilos, but I looked not like an Ethiopian runner. And then my heaviest stage weight, which I think was the PCA this year, was 295 pounds, which I think is like 132, 133.
Yeah.
So about 25 kilos. Only a decade though. So
Yeah. No, to fill out a frame like yours is difficult. Long limbs, long levers, they're always going to be difficult to fill out. So
there's a lot more filling to go. That's the kind of, that's the good and the bad thing. I'm like, you just got to keep on working, but I love it. So
yeah. So somebody who competes at 300 pound, mate, they're going to be people asking, how much food do you have to eat then to be in the off season? So obviously I know you're off season now. What does your daily food consumption actually look like?
So my food has never actually had to go. You have some people who have to push their food really high, and then they'll grow. And you have other guys who can just it just has to be like 3,000 calories and they'll grow. I'm pretty much like in between. Like I'm fairly average in that regard. So one thing I did from 2000, I think, when I started kind of taking charge of my own everything, like I got heavy. Like I think I hit 330 pounds in the morning when I was in like kind of 2015, 2016. And that's like the peak of my bulk I'll ever get. Like I've never broken past that. And obviously then I was absolutely hammering the food. Yeah. I was just an absolute chubber. So every time I've hit there, I've been a bit better. But at the moment, I mean, this whole situation's kind of knocked things a little bit because I can't train and do everything to the full potential. But before it, I was kind of 8 weeks deep. It was going really well. Calories were about 6,000 on a training day and about just under 5 on a rest day. I don't really kind of have cheat meals. I was having a Subway once a week after legs or on leg day. Just it seemed to kind of fit and digest and go really well. And I think that then bumped that day up to about 7.5. So yeah, that's kind of where it goes. And then when I come back down, I tend to finish preps around between 2.5 and 3,000, probably go down to.
Yeah, which is low food for somebody who's almost 300 pounds.
Yeah, there's not a lot there, but especially because obviously you've got to take into protein, and then once you take the protein out, there's not really a lot left.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Cool. So let's talk us through a sort of training situation for yourself, and how obviously you sort of, like we all did, sort of almost just mess about for the first year. You get into your first training phase. You've got this powerlifter here with you, and now sort of 2020. There is, recently I've seen a lot of people say, oh, you should go high volume, or you should go low volume, and you should hit everything twice a day, or should hit everything once a week. What do you like to do, Josh?
Again, like mine's just kind of adapted on what I think is like reasonable and rational. Like I have a huge amount of respect for everyone pushing whatever they might want to do. I always remember like early days, and I certainly don't want to put him down anyway, because it's not my place. And to be honest, I never really kind of explored the program too much. But I always remember like Neil Hill's Y3T. And I was like, right, so there's like different weeks. I was like, why don't you just do it all in like 1 week? Like you can do like high volume and heavy weight and, all this in a session. And that's always kind of been, I suppose, like my thought process. Like every session has 1 or 2 movements that are progressively overload focused. And then dependent, I suppose, I found out what works with certain muscle groups for me. But then there'll be like isolate. Like I always start with an isolation movement because it just protects my muscles. It just protects my joints. I'm not going to be necessarily as strong on my heavier movements, but I'm going to be warmed up and I'm going to be safe. And then back end of the session, kind of maybe a high volume, couple of supersets, whatever it may be. And that's pretty much how it stayed. Like the only changes really have been particularly towards the kind of beginning to middle. I think we all think there are certain exercises we have to do within training. So I have never got on with deadlifts or rack pulls, but literally until about 3 years ago, I would just be like, no, I'd do them for like 3 months and I'd tweak my back and then I'd be like training like a pussy for a month and then it'd start going back. I'd leave it another month, then I'd start them again, get another 3 or 4 months in and then tweak again. I'd be like, why are you doing it? So again, like I've gone away from things like that. Stiff leg deadlifts are fine, so I do them. And again, just I suppose honing the exercises that I know I feel and I know, feel safe and feel good and feel like they're doing what they should and feel the muscles engaging. To the point where now I kind of have a short list of exercises that I can rotate through. Generally, I kind of stick to the same program and then just rotate sessions every other week.
Yeah. So we both know, Josh, we're both coaches. When people do come to you and say, oh, I want a new training program after 6 weeks, are you a person that says, listen, I've run this for 3 years and this is still progressing? Is that sort of what your ethos is?
Yeah. And it frustrates me, but I mean, the thing is, I've never chopped and changed, and so it is a hard one for me to kind of get my head around. And I think, if you look at certainly the overall structure of the sessions, probably for the last 5 years has been the same. It's just maybe, like I said, the movements and potentially the order. But I know, like I've trained literally done the same leg session for about 3 years because it works and it's what I needed, like more hamstring and glute focused. And I'm never one to. It's always that awkward conversation when a client says that, you're like, you're just getting warmed up, mate. Like, probably going to start actually seeing some progress if you stick to this. And it's like, you're just bored because if you're bored, you're in the wrong sport.
Yeah, it's and I think if you look at any of the really good bodybuilders in this country, they're still putting out the same programs that are very similar to what they were doing 3 or 4 years ago. They're military pressing for their shoulders, they're hack squatting, they're leg pressing, they're doing a row. They're doing, how many variations of barbell row can you have? You've got an underhand.
How many variations of compound movements, period? Like I said, like for me, there's a set number of exercises that I know work well, and then you cut that back to what the compounds. And I'm lucky if I have like 2 rotations worth of compounds. So a barbell and a T-bar row, the stiff leg deadlift with a normal grip and a snatch lift grip. That's literally kind of where we're at. But again, you feel it. It's just having that kind of stubborn mentality and just sticking to your guns for the sake of ensuring you make some progress. Yeah,
absolutely. So let's flip over to competing now. So 2017 NABA Pro card, 2019 NABA Universe win. What do you see then for the next 2 or 3 years?
I mean, I'm a very short-term thinker, but I think now that I won the Universe, I would really love to win the NABA Worlds, because then that would be NABA Pro Universe, NABA Pro Europeans, and that would be, I think, all the pro shows that you can do for NABA. So at this point in time, I was in 2 minds whether to compete this year anyway. This situation's kind of just made sure that this is a year for growing, which works fine because NABA Worlds falls in the middle of the year at June anyway. So then I can take and then start prep kind of beginning of January, whatever. So I think that's the kind of next show for me. And then after that, I want to. I think I want to try the IFBB, but I'm hesitant simply because I don't see where I'll go. I know you always have, your friends, your family, your followers who are like, oh no, you do great. But realistically, like the top tier there is just next level, even the fucking middle tier, and it'd be quite a hard thing right now for the amount of years I've put in to then start from the bottom with where I currently, just the way I currently feel. Like I might find like next year I just need a new challenge, and that would be the drive. But if not, then it would just be looking at trying to kind of dominate PCA and other events really. So I suppose I'll know more when I've middle of next year, when I kind of know where I stand. But
Sure.
yeah, I think that at the moment the main driving force to do IFBB would be simply because a lot of people say I should, which isn't the reason to do it, but it does put like a pressure on me in terms of like I'm constantly aware of it.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like I would love to compete against, you know, the British guys. I would love to, you know, step on stage with Jamie. You know, we've kind of had quite parallel careers and never competed against each other. Like we started a similar time. I think he did classic to begin with as well. But we've just kind of avoided everything, and that would be really cool. But again, it's not a reason to just try and get my pro card. It's just to be like, just not stand on stage with you.
Yeah, no, for sure. What drove you to NABBA, Josh? Because obviously we're down south, and down south there isn't a very strong NABBA presence. We only have one show for NABBA, which is the NABBA Southeast. So what drove you to NABBA in the first place?
So my height really. I know in 2012 I did Inters over 90s UK BFF. I competed against Luke. I was meant to compete against Sasan, but he didn't turn up. I think he didn't want to do it. And it just became very real that, you know, to stand on stage against those guys, I need to be 300 pounds plus on stage. And I wasn't going to be there in the next couple of years. I'm still not there now. You know what I mean? So I love competing. I wanted to progress. I wanted to be able to have an opportunity to kind of present myself. And also, you know, it feels good to be successful. You know, all praise to people who just like pick IFBB from like day one and just hammer away and, you know, getting like don't place, but get better. Yeah. And then kind of eventually like that's grit, that's balls. But I wanted to, you know, again, just to try something new. Like I'd heard great things of it. I knew like Max was a fucking incredible bodybuilder and was kind of going there. I didn't have much kind of consciousness of what the universe was or entailed. But yeah, the fact that, you know, there was a class one and I was going to stand on stage against people who I could as easily as possible be compared against. You know, I still might be a couple of inches, 3-4 inches taller than them, but at least I'm not going to be against anyone 5'6" and, you know, 120 kilos of just bald muscle.
Yeah, sure. So again, let's flip switches here. So career-wise, so you as a personal trainer in the gym, do you think your success in bodybuilding has also helped your success as a personal trainer?
Absolutely, yeah. Like again, and that's particularly as I became more aware. I mean, initially until I started at M10, like my career ambitions were minimal. I worked in a gym just as a gym instructor in Loughborough, and the simple purpose was to work shifts that fitted around training and to make money that provided me to continue bodybuilding. There wasn't really much else there. Like I said, I've never had a particularly long-term mindset. But then it just got to the point where I was like, I suppose, do I want to do this for like the next 10, 15 years? Like this will get boring at some point pretty soon. And it was a kind of almost an accidental thing. I was doing a sampling day for my then sponsors BSN at a gym in Nottingham, shop in Nottingham. And Mark just happened to walk in. And we kind of knew of each other, and we had a chat. And he was like, "What do you do?" And I was like, "Not a lot, really." And he was like, "Oh, well, you know, if you're interested, you know, this is before now, like the fucking process to get a job at M10s.
Yes,
this was a gift at the time, and I'm really pleased that I kind of jumped at it. And that was pretty much like a month later, I was working for him. So then that obviously, you know, forced me to up my game from a career point of view, from a coaching point of view. You know, the next kind of 4 years, I think it was, just transformed that side of things. Alongside that, I was able to continue progressing in bodybuilding, and therefore kind of was getting more, I suppose, online attention, to the point where the reason why I left M10 was simply I didn't feel I could maintain my level of service to both the online clients I'd built up and the clients that I'd kind of generated from Mark. And I just spoke to him. I said, you know, for the best of both of us, really, I'm going to go try my own thing, because it would be an injustice not to experiment and give it a go. And I also don't want to just carry on in this sort of medium where at some point I'm going to drop the ball, and I don't want to let you down. So he was amazing about it. But yeah, every time, like, again, that's quite a part of the reason why I've been conscious that I want to compete pretty much every year since 2014, because every year, you know, people buy into the process, people buy into your journey, and you come out of it, like, you know, through a prep, as you get better looking, you know, it's very, I suppose, it doesn't make much sense because it doesn't show that you know what the fuck you're on about. But the better your body looks, the more people are like, oh, cool, do you do online coaching, bro?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but, you know, you want to be careful you ask that, because someone will say yes and they won't have a fucking clue.
Yeah.
And yeah, that has helped me no end, obviously, kind of generate, I suppose, a following, and through that business, to the point where, yeah, I'm happy and doing everything I love right now.
Sure. Are you still based in Nottingham, Josh?
No, well, I live in Loughborough, so I'm still, I've got a little flat here, so yeah, that's where I'm at now. So I just used to sort of commute. It's not far; it's like half hour away over to there. So again, it just made my life a little bit easier.
Brilliant, super. So, in terms of the long-term plans with the business, Josh, what are you looking to do now, long-term, with your business?
I mean, realistically, it's still like early days. Like, I've only been going just over a year completely on my own. So I suppose the short term is just to maintain and to continue to sort of build on a online coaching basis, and just have a level of maintenance. To be honest, like, at the risk of sounding unambitious, like, I really enjoy just coaching people, and I don't really think too far beyond that. I have things that I want to do, but they're not necessarily kind of business orientated, but they could be, I suppose, incorporated. Like, I've got a couple of properties and I would love to kind of get more, and kind of, you know, that you can kind of say it's easy money, but it's not, because, you know, you still got to fucking buy the things. But that would be, if I could kind of carry on where I'm at with my coaching and be able to invest that way, that would make me really happy. And I also do want, especially now with this whole situation, I've always wanted like a private facility, not necessarily to make any money of, just simply for my own satisfaction. You know, I think the further you go into bodybuilding, we've all got bits of kit that we absolutely love. Yeah. And I've got this list on my phone, and this fantasy of just like having these things, you know, in an outhouse, in a garden or something, or whatever it may be, and just having that place. And then sure, maybe being able to do a few bits and bobs from it, but for the most part, just that being the sort of, I suppose, dream.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people who have, well, I'd probably name 3 or 4 who have come from N10, gone into sort of their own sort of avenue as well, and started making that. Is that sort of like an ambition of yourself, or is, I know obviously I know the work that goes into running a gym. Is that something you've ever thought of?
No, like, I remember someone like quite early on, I don't even know if I properly started bodybuilding, and bearing in mind he probably wasn't necessarily the best businessman to have actually said this, but he was like, if you want to get a gym, like, you do it because you love it, you do it not because you want to make any money. And I was like, all right, well, I don't know if I love it that much. So I think, so from then I just never really considered it. And to be honest, like, again, I'm an only child, I'm very controlling, and like, I love what I can do now because it's just me. And I think the longer I go with this mindset, the harder I find the idea of like delegating and like trusting someone else. So again, like, for right now, it serves purpose, and, you know, the idea of having a private facility is appealing, but to actually do it like you, I've got a lot of respect, but it's not, I don't think it's my cup of tea.
Yeah, I always, because obviously I competed for 5 years and I come out of competing, and like that initial delegation, like you say, was one of the hardest things, because other than that, I played cricket at a very good level, and people see cricket as a team sport, but when you bat, you're on your own. Like, when you bat, you're on your own. It was very much one of them things where I was very, very reluctant to give anything to anybody else. And one of the reasons I actually went on Mark's course was to learn the roles and art of delegation.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, so I completely understand that.
Yeah,
So,
Mark, when I left, he was like, listen, if ever you want to come on any, like, he was like, all the best, like, I know you'll succeed, but he was like, if ever you want to come on anything, then just let me know, because it would be cool. And, you know, I can see myself in, you know, maybe a year's time, like, getting to a point where I'm like, okay, you know, things are solid, things are, I know exactly where I am with my business, like, I've got a good hand on things, I feel stable. And then it's that point of, how can I then look at ways of, you know, improving, progressing, developing, whatever it may be. But I'm never one to kind of run before I can walk. Like, I want to walk well, and then I'll look at ways of pushing on.
Absolutely, and I think that's the best way. I think that's the best mindset. Yeah. Best mindset. So one of the questions that I'm going to ask everybody, Josh, is if you were sat at a dinner table and you could sit with 3 bodybuilders, who would those 3 be and why?
I think until recently, well, like I've never been a huge bodybuilding fan. Like, my love of bodybuilding has been very much like sort of local UK based, you know, amateur based. Like, I've always drawn inspiration from, you know, the guys that I've either competed against or seen at shows like mine. But I think certainly, just it's a bit cliche, and it's everyone would be like, oh god, but everyone says that. But like Ronnie Coleman, just because I just love to tap into the mentality of being able to literally break your body. I can't even imagine, you know, I mean, to be fair, he might not have thought very much about it at the time, but it would be interesting. And then Jay Cutler, and that's a recent one. Like, I think for a long time, I thought Jay was quite boring. Like, I just thought he was, you know, a bodybuilder and that was it. But then obviously since he's retired, he's kind of come into his own and stuff. And I've watched some really interesting kind of things with him lately. I mean, I've only just started getting into watching like YouTube and podcasts myself. So, you know, people have probably known this about him for ages. And I'm like, oh, he's actually pretty cool. Yeah, definitely that, because he seems to have so much to say on so many levels. And then Flex Lewis, just because I think he's just the most genuine ambassador of. I've met him. I was lucky enough to meet him when I was sponsored by BSN, and he was actually someone who said, I remember we were like literally like, you know how stands are, and there's like a little area at the back where you kind of go for your food, and it's like there's nothing there. And me and him, and I was like, fucking hell, it's Flex Lewis. And he was like, oh, you look like a Viking, mate. And I was like, oh, thank you. I was like, a few people have said that. And he was like, you should like brand that. You should, you know, make that your thing. And that was pretty much when like the penny dropped, that I was like, I'm going to run with this. And I'm like, you know, I've never given myself the nickname, but I've certainly, like, it's been given, and I'm going to make it work. And obviously through my kind of coaching, Team Viking, and, you know, it just gives that certain, I suppose people know it's a link, isn't it? It's a visual thing. And then, you know, hopefully they go back to me. So yeah, those 3 definitely.
Cool, brilliant. Yeah, good answers. Good answers. And then 3 favorite films and why?
Oh, ask me all the things I shit on. I have a terrible taste in films. I'll go through like Amazon, and they put some terrible films on their free thing, and I'll watch them, and I'll be like, oh, it's quite good. And it's like a 1-star film. I mean, I'm a massive Harry Potter geek. So one of, I mean, every one of them will probably fit it, but we'll just choose one of them. I don't even know if I could pick. Probably the last one, simply because it's the end. It's the most important.
The books, Josh. I've read all the books.
Yeah. I actually I read them before bed, so I'm on the last one at the moment. And then after that, my mum just sent me. This would be my other film, The Hobbit. Yeah. Like, I love like my kind of Lord of the Rings fantasy side of stuff. So yeah, definitely The Hobbit, definitely Harry Potter. And then one film that I always it always makes me cry. I don't cry much, but I always cry this film. It's a bit weird. I don't know if you've ever heard or seen a film called We Bought a Zoo.
No, I haven't seen it.
Right, it's got Matt Damon in it, and it's literally about like a guy who bought a zoo. But I don't know why. I think it's the animals and everything like that. It's a good film, to be fair, but I can always watch that, and there's this one bit which will always get me, and I'm pretty sure that everyone else would be like, that's really weird that you're crying at this film, but I don't know why, it just connects.
Yeah, quality. Yeah, quality. There's a Harry Potter world, like not that far, like probably only about an hour from here, just outside of Watford.
Yeah, I went like when it first pretty much opened. Yeah, I've been trying to convince my girlfriend to go back, or to go sit with me, but she's it's not her vibe. Like
I've been with Mel. Like we got the headset, and you walk round, and you go through all the films.
Things changed so much. It's got so much better because I literally went when it was amazing for me, obviously, but like I know I've seen like things since, and like I always wanted to go at Christmas. Like they do like a special Christmas thing. I think it's like limited tickets. I remember one year I went, or I tried to get some. I think they're like £100 or something, but there was only like 100 because I think you got dinner in like the Great Hall and everything. I was like, I need that in my life. But I was too slow off the mark.
Yeah, that's quality. Yeah. No, I went with I think it was actually one of mine and Mel's first dates. We went to the Harry Potter world, and it was
that's a good date. Relationship secure if you can do that early doors.
But yeah, no, it was it was good, and we had what's the beer called? I don't know the beer.
The beer.
What's it called?
Butterbeer.
Butterbeer. Yeah. We had the butterbeer there. Yeah. Yeah. No, it was cool. Yeah. No, it was cool. Awesome. All right, but thanks ever so much, Josh. If you just let people know how they can contact you, how they can get a hold of you, how they can follow you, if they want any training, advice, coaching, where can people find you?
Cool. So the best place is just Instagram. So at Josh_Maley. And then obviously on there, it's got, if you want to email me, it's got the email link through that. And that's where I spend pretty much all of my time. I'm not really one for Facebook or any of the other sort of social platforms. So yeah, everything, if you've got any kind of particular questions, feel free to DM me. They sometimes get lost, but I'm starting to do like weekly Q&A things now. So if people do have anything kind of they want to just pick my brains out, we can kind of go through it there. But yeah, email's always there, and emails never fail to get responded to. So
yeah, awesome. Brilliant, Josh. Thanks ever so much for your time, buddy. I really, really appreciate it. Said thanks ever so much, and yeah, we'll leave it there.
Awesome, Rob. Take care, mate. Thank you very much.
Cheers, buddy.
Thanks for joining us, and make sure you subscribe. Until next time, check out all the athletes' updates on Pro Female Fitness, and for all your supplement needs, head over to www.mygymsups.com.